Welcome to the Beyond Physio podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Zmijewski, owner of Fitness Together down in Cary, North Carolina. Not only is he an amazing person, he's also our landlord and has graciously opened up his space for us. Thank you very much, Sean.
Yeah.
And really excited to have him on the show because Sean's got a great story and he's got a great process for how he gets his clients who are very all fitness minded to get to their next level. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I want to share a little bit about Sean. Not only is Sean ripped and fit, you can't tell underneath the shirt, but he really is. He lives it. He lives a life, which is great. But he's also got the credentials to back it up. So he is a Chapel Hill exercise science grad. And he decided to go a step further and became an exercise physiology master's at Chapel Hill as well. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He doesn't have a weekend certification. That's some of our other people that we know in the field. No, nothing wrong with that. I get it.
Yeah.
But this guy's got a lot of credentials to help get people on the right path towards health. And it's awesome to have someone like Sean in our circle here. So Sean, tell us a little bit about how you went from athlete to exercise science into this very successful franchise owner with Fitness Together.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I honestly have no idea. There was no plan. For me, when I first got into this, I grew up with what they call middle child syndrome. Third of four. My brothers are 6'5". I'm 5'10". It's the middle of the pack. So I've always had this sense of trying to outdo everyone else. So in my brain, it was more so, my brothers were taller, more athletic than me, and so how do I excel? How do I outpace them in life?
Mm-hmm.
So that came through academics. I knew I was like, if I could learn more about the body and how it moves, maybe I could get that upper edge on them for everything else. So that's kind of what got me into fitness in the most part. We enjoy sports.
Yes.
3 brothers in a house. We like to move.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn as much about the body as possible so that I could kind of get that upper edge on them. So that's how it started. It started with just a competitive nature as to, you're not going to be as tall as these guys. How do you keep up with them?
That's awesome. Did you find that the education was really helpful as far as getting into that knowledge base?
Huge, yeah.
I couldn't imagine from Chapel Hill.
I loved it too.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what got me into it. And then I was big on medicine, so I wanted to get into medicine. But for anyone that knows anything about Chapel Hill, everybody that goes to Chapel Hill wants to be a doctor. And so it can't happen. I was one of the many that got weeded out.
Yeah.
And so physiology was kind of the next thing in line for me. It was more so still had the chemistry with the medicine. We still had the exercise part with the kind of athletic background.
Yeah.
And so kinesiology just kind of fell into my lap for the most part. So I decided by my junior year, this is kind of the route I want to go.
Yeah.
Had no idea what I would do with it from a degree standpoint, from a job standpoint, but in college they say do what you love, and I loved the chemical processes of the body, and I loved the movement associated with athletes, and so I put them together, and kinesiology was it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story. And it's cool because not only were you studying at this high level, but you were also an athlete there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What did you play?
Club football there. So that's more so the JV football.
Yeah.
When you think JV, though, you think like more recreational, but JV football in Carolina is different. We play Division II, Division III school. So it's essentially college football for the most part. Yeah. It's just not at the D1 level. I mean, it's a little more, sub-level there.
Yeah. So cool. So you went from there, Sean, to where you had, this amazing education at Chapel Hill. How did you go from there into going into the franchise world? Yes. What was the process there?
Long story long for the most part. So after Chapel Hill, I actually got a really good job. I was managing an occupational therapy clinic. It was work conditioning.
Oh yeah.
For those of you that don't know work conditioning, it's a limbo phase for people that get hurt at work. Then they get a surgery to fix the injury. Then they go through physical therapy, occupational therapy, but they're not quite ready for work yet. Yeah. So it's like this limbo phase where it's like they're past physical therapy, but they're just not ready. They're not functionally fit for their job. So I managed a clinic that kind of worked in work conditioning for a year, but I'll be honest with you, I just did not know enough. I knew in my heart, I just didn't have the confidence of working with somebody that I felt like a bachelor's degree did enough.
I see, yeah.
So I did that for a year. And I did really well with it, but when you don't have the confidence in training or working with patients, you're always worried you're going to get them hurt. And so I knew I had to go back to school.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided the master's route was probably what I was going to do. And again, going into the master's educational level.
Yeah.
I still had no idea what I wanted to do
Yeah.
afterwards. I just knew I needed to know more.
Yeah.
And so that's where it kind of
Evolved.
got my master's
Yeah.
degree. After that, I was planning on doing cardiac rehab.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, that was the set mindset in there.
Yeah.
I did an internship at Moses Cone Hospital in Greensboro.
Oh, cool.
But they just don't pay enough. I gotta be honest with you. Healthcare, there's no money there.
Oh, no.
So I was doing personal training on Fitness Together in Greensboro and working in cardiac rehab and then doing some graduate research assistant work.
Yeah.
The owner of the studio, I guess he saw something in me.
Yeah.
He told me, he really felt like I could run one of these studios.
Mm.
We had a long conversation, and it essentially ended with me telling him, "Look, David, I didn't go through 6 years of college to run a gym. It's just not my thing."
Yeah.
But he talked me into it. He said, try it out for a year, see if you love it. Mm-hmm. Did it for a year. Year turned into 3 years of managing it.
Yeah.
After year 3, I was thinking, what's next?
Yeah.
The next logical step for me was just business ownership. And so that itself was extremely terrifying. To this day, it still is terrifying because I'm not a risk taker when it comes to finances. And it worked out great. It just goes to show, if you really do believe in what you're doing, doesn't matter what you're doing. I know this is cliche. You got to go for it. Because if you really have the confidence in any job you're at, you can turn that into anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think confidence and self-belief go hand in hand.
In everything.
Everything.
Exercise, anything you do in life. If you believe in yourself when you do it, and we hear from these motivational speakers all the time, and we just look at them like, you're just blowing smoke up my butt.
Right.
It's real. It's real. If you really do believe in everything you offer, you can turn it into anything.
Yeah. And what's cool about you, Sean, is that you've also, like, your work ethic, I can tell just from having met you just a few months ago, like, you're just like, I'm just going to get this done, this done, this done. It's a steady kind of process. And I feel like some of the people out there where if you're starting a business or you're starting a practice or even fitness or physical therapy, there's sort of this illusion of, I see that he became or she became very successful, but you don't see the years it took, and you just walk me through it, all that education, all that different trial and error to get to this point. And this is what you see, the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot underneath that, the breadth of that experience that really is what allows for your success today.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. There's a lot of years of just, and this is years of just not knowing. What am I doing? Going back to when I was 21 and I left this PT clinic, I was getting paid really well. And I dropped that job, the salary job, great benefits, to go back to school for 2 years with the mindset I have no idea what's going to happen. So you're looking at about 3 years of just regret for the most part. Like, what am I doing? Was this the right call? Stress. So looking back on it now, everyone sees, my friends too, they're just like, oh, you're a business owner, you're great, you're making billions of dollars, you're doing amazing. And it's like, you can close shop whenever you want. You work-life balance, you create it. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. We went through a decade of grinding to get to this point. And it's, that mentality of just grinding through it doesn't stop. Yeah. Just because things get comfortable.
Doesn't stop. Yeah. And you've acquired all these skills along the way, resilience, being able to foresee things, the work ethic, of course, and the grit, figuring problem solving on the spot, all on the way. And that is really the definition of really of an owner of any kind. It's like, am I the best problem solver for my organization? And that's what it seems like the path has led you to, which is awesome.
Yep.
Cool. Now, Sean, it's funny because we talk about exercise, and this is based on our conversation yesterday. Tell our audience how much you love exercise.
I'm going to be 100% honest. To this day, a lot of people do not believe me, but I promise you I would not lie about this. I loathe exercise. I would rather be doing anything else in this world except exercise. To me, I could work a 15-hour day like it's nothing. Yeah. But if I have to work out, which I do every day, for an hour, my day is over when that exercise is done. Everything else is just kind of coasting through the day. The reason I am that way is I can't help it. I just don't like this feeling tired, sweaty, having to exert yourself for an hour. But I still do it every single day because I see the value in what it is.
Exactly.
So even though I don't enjoy it, I do understand how important it is. And so it's a mentality of the get through that 1 hour.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that's why I say I appeal to the average Jane and Joe out there that doesn't want to exercise because I can't stand it. You flip the switch, you get it done, and go about your day.
So that must be very inspirational for your clients when they hear that from you because they're thinking, oh, Sean must love exercise. That's why he's preaching it. But really what you love is the value that it brings Not necessarily the actual process of actually
Yes.
doing it every day.
Yep.
Sounds right?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what I coach them to.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can really relate to, or I can be sympathetic with the clients.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they're overweight for the most part when they come here. And they look at me and they're like, oh, this guy's never been overweight. He doesn't know what it's like to kind of grind through this.
Exactly.
And so I do have that conversation with them at first, because I want them to understand that I do share that component with them. I don't want to exercise, but if you understand the value and what it brings, you're going to go through it. The analogy I use for my clients, since most of my clients are working class, I say, there are so many people in this country that hate their job, but they do it for 20, 30 years. And why is that? Because they see the value in what it brings, whether it's financial value, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's the opportunity for a spouse not to work. It provides them whatever that value is, they do it and they grind through it. And so if people could get that mentality and accept it for exercise, we could really, take this, we could fix the obesity epidemic. I mean, I know
absolutely.
that goes into the next topic.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think that even just for me seeing, all this unfold in your life and how you've been able to inspire your clients, despite the fact that, exercise for you doesn't feel great, but it's something that you value. I feel like this is also a great time to talk about sort of the other components of health and wellness. How do you first, before I even go there, so with your clients, walk us through your process at Fitness Together, as far as when they come in, what to expect, and tell us more about like how you get them to really stick to a program.
Yeah. 4 ways. So 4 ways. Number 1, figure out the why. And for me, my main thing for them is they need to figure out the why, and they need to believe that. Number 2, educate. So once we figure out why they're here, we educate. So I tell every client when they first starting here, when they first start working out here, the first 2-3 weeks here, it's going to feel like a lecture. I'm talking at them. I'm explaining everything because there's just so much we need to go over. I really need them to kind of remember maybe 5-10% of what I'm saying at first, but I'm going to keep repeating myself over and over again to the point where they get it. So that's number 2, educate. Number 3, they have to believe that this actually works. You can't just come in here, show up, and just expect things to change. You have to believe that 3 times a week is not going to do it.
Yeah,
you're going to have to put in the work outside of the studio, and then once you start seeing the value in there, that brings you to the 4th step. It's just maintaining that.
Yeah.
So it's 4 steps in there. Figure out the why, education, believe in the system and get through it, the accountability part, and then maintain it.
That's awesome. That actually sounds like our process to a next level, where we want to get people to understand that value to what they do, the why. So like, hey, it's okay. It's great that you want to get back to running because it's something you've always done. But why is that so important to you?
Oh, yes.
Because if you can't connect that person to the why, they're gonna drop off.
That's it.
They're not going to see the value anymore. Because as you and I know, both fitness and rehab, the journey is not linear.
Yes.
It's not like you do A, you get B. It's like A, and then you might plateau and maybe dip. And then the next time you do something, it'll go back up. Yeah. So I feel there's a lot of mirroring there. And, I find that the clients who actually see the value every time and they understand the value, they're willing to execute, because as you and I both know too, what people do outside the 21 or the 1 hour that we see them, the 23 hours outside, that's really where the game-changing stuff is. Yep. What you and I are doing, just coaching them, really guiding them on the right path, and hopefully something will stick so that when they're making better choices outside, it might be nutrition, it might be choosing the right activities, or saying, hey, Dr. Jerry said not to run 5 miles. Okay, I'll just run 1, sticking to that kind of program. How do you ensure compliance for your clients outside of when they see you?
That's tough. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, that is very, very tough. I tell the clients all the time, if we could just, handcuff ourselves to the client and go through 24 hours a day, we could change their lives. But unfortunately, for a lot of reasons, we can't do that. So it's tough. So what I do is I break it up into short-term goals. And when I say short-term specific goals, meaning most of our clients train 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. When they come in for a Monday, I set an upfront contract. I let them know what we're doing today, what they need to be doing on their off days. And when I say what they're doing on their off days, I make it as specific as possible. Typical recommendation, something like this. If we're working on nutrition, let's say, we'll say they're eating out 5 days a week. Their goal is 2 days that week, they need to cook something. It doesn't matter what it is. They can go to the store, get a can of tuna and bread and make that at home.
Yeah.
Anything they make will be better than anything they buy for the most part.
Yeah,
and
for
even if it is worse, it doesn't matter because I don't care what they're eating. It's the behavior I'm trying to change.
Yeah.
So when they come in on a Monday, I'll tell them, look, by Wednesday, I want you to have cooked 1 meal on your own. That means You're coming in Wednesday night at 6:45 p.m. That means we have Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night to cook a meal.
Yeah.
Don't care what it is. Let's see if you can do it. When they come in on Wednesday, I'm going to ask them the question, hey, did you cook that meal? Any meal?
Yeah.
If they say yes, great. We're going to use that as a standard. Try to do that again coming in Friday.
Yeah.
If they say no, we don't berate them. We don't bash them for that. We just figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we figure out why, that helps us establish what are the barriers in this person's life. And so we take a step back and we say, now we need to work on the barriers.
Yeah.
We don't need to work on the nutrition, the cardio. Let's fix the barriers first, and then we'll move forward.
I love that.
So it's a lot of moving forward and back, and it's a lot of improvising, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
so there's no kind of correct algorithm.
Yeah.
It's more so figure out the algorithm as we go.
Yeah.
Use that algorithm and milk it for all it's worth until it stops working.
And then adjust accordingly.
Yeah. And then you change the variables.
I love this process for you guys because I feel like for rehab it's the same way. Like we try to be as directive as possible. Like, Sean, when our sessions, and by the way, Sean is recovering from an injury.
Yes.
He let me say that on the screen here.
Yeah.
But it's about being directive. It's like, listen, this is what to expect in the session today. This is what we're going to do next time, so that you get a preview of what's going to happen, so that there's something to look forward to. It's not just, he's going to do this and this. It's going to be a little bit different every time. We're going to emphasize something a little bit different every time as well, which goes into like the health foundation we talked about yesterday, Sean, which is foundations of healing, foundations of wellness, all come from a mindset. Would you agree?
Yes, big time, big time. I mean, everything you have to have. If your mindset's not there, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. So along with that, nutrition obviously is really important. Having regular movement, I think, is probably a better choice than always doing something that's really like HIIT oriented or just super intense. Yes. I think people misunderstand that just because you don't you're not huffing and puffing, your heart's at above 150, that you're not getting benefit from that. And that's what we're trying to retrain some of the clients that we see. I love CrossFitters and stuff, but I feel like sometimes they're used to a certain amount of intensity. And when they don't get that, they feel like, well, I didn't really work out today. That's wrong.
Yeah. That's how the injury happened.
Yes.
So my injury, I tore the peroneus longus, is the
ATFL,
and
ligament.
then I had a first metatarsal reconstruction, which in layman's terms, I tore a tendon in the calf, a ligament in the kind of ankle area, and then I had a bone reconstruction in the toe to adjust for my cavus varus feet, which means my arch is kind of high. So that in layman's terms, that's what I had done. 3 surgeries in one. But it happened because I had the mentality, going into my 20s, even my teens into the 20s, where it's just push, suck it up, walk it off, that mentality. And that works until it doesn't work.
Absolutely,
You get old, the body's, you're getting worse. Or our ligaments are just not the same as they used to be. And so even though I'm in this field, it just goes to show that doesn't matter how much I know. It's a personality thing. I can tell you all day, it's like I knew what I should have been doing. But what was working for me at the time, going back to the algorithm we're talking about, my algorithm was still working, had this injury happen, and now I tweaked the entire, for the rest of my life, my exercise regimen will be completely different than in my 20s.
Absolutely, And I would say, and we talked about this yesterday too, Sean, where I feel like for somebody who's in their late 40s now, that I spend probably a good 20 minutes before the group workout warm-up, because it's not enough for me. And I have to really kind of get myself mobile and stuff to really go at it. But I've also realized how important rest is in between too. And this is something I'm not used to. So I'm trying to embrace this. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't do anything today. But really, that's also part of your training as well, right? And you have also clients and take off days as well then too?
Yes, we do. I'm very big on trying not to promote the off days yet. Off days are good for people like you and I that have been active for so long. We have a regimen, we have structure. Exercise is a part of our life. You know what I mean? So it's good to have an off day there. To equate that back into a normal person. If you're working full time and you're doing it for years, take a vacation, take a week off. But if you're working part time, 1 day a week or 2 days a week for 3 hours a day, do you really need a vacation? Not so much. So I'm really big on trying to push them as much as they can handle first. And then when they have that conversation with me, or we figure out, hey, I can't do any more than this, that's the expectation right there. So that's our kind of goal there.
I love that.
So working with athletes, so I know you work with a lot of athletes. My typical demographic are more so the average Jane and Joe out there, whereas athletes are the complete opposite of that. So for athletes, I know you need to kind of have those deload weeks. You need to bring it down. You need to rest, because we have that mentality. It's just push through it.
Yeah.
With the average Jane and Joe, usually it depends on their training style. If
Exactly.
they only train 3 times a week, probably not going to tell them to take a week off.
Yeah, exactly. I would say for our clientele too, where we have people who are just very sedentary. I mean, our ideal client is somebody who's active or an athlete like yourself, or maybe the parents of an athlete, so they know better for their child. Yeah. Walk us through real quick, like how your experience with us has been different from other PTs, and I didn't pay him to say this, other PTs that you've been to in the past for this.
I swear by everything Next Level Physio does, assuming all the other PTs are the same as Jerry and John.
That's right.
The way they look at physical therapy is the exact same way that I look at training. They break things down. You come in, they give you a game plan. This is what we're going to do today. This is the goal today. This is the goal moving forward. I got to be honest with you. This is my first major injury. I've never had a serious injury in my life. And I didn't realize how much I didn't know until I started working with you. The fact that it's not a linear progression when we're getting better. I always thought it's just every week we get a little bit better because years of PT work, working in PT settings, that's what they teach you. And I know they do it for the sake of they want you to stay motivated, but it's not true. And so what happens is when you have an athletic brain like mine and you expect progress and you don't see progress, very demotivated.
Oh my God, big time.
So you and
big
John
time.
have just, first of all, getting my mentality to understand look, a little bit every day is going to be so much more beneficial than just 3 big bouts every week.
Yeah.
So that's been one of the biggest things there. And then the just the knowledge that comes with what Next Level Physio has.
Thank you.
Like I said, I've worked in a ton of physical therapy clinics before. I've been a physical therapist aide, fitness instructor. My goal was to become a physical therapist.
Yes, that's right.
In my younger years. And I've learned more working with you in 2 months than I have in 10 years in physical therapy.
Oh my gosh, I feel the tears welling up. Here we go. Oh
it's
my
great.
God.
And so I swear, I tell the clients here, I'm like, I push it. It's one of the only things that I'm just like, if they're feeling any injury, I push it. I say, get your butt in there because I know that's what's best for the clients.
Yeah. And for us, we take I've been in situations in the past with the traditional physical therapy practice where it's symptom-based.
Yes.
It's like, oh, your ankle hurts, we'll just treat your ankle. There's a lot more of you than just your ankle. So we take a whole body approach. We want to find the root cause of what's going on, just like you find the root cause for why people might not be motivated to fitness. And at the same time, we're going to develop a plan of care that's going to be specific to you. Yeah. And it's always one-on-one. So, unfortunately, what happens in the traditional setting is that it often keeps people in pain because you're not going to get the root cause fixed, and I have so many stories on that. I'll share another episode. But you're also don't have time because a lot of PTs in the traditional setting are seeing 3, 4, 5 patients at the same time. So you can't even direct the care to the right areas. Like, okay, Sean, hey, here's your sheet of exercises from the beginning of time. You can do it on your own. You're an exercise physiology major. You know what you're doing, right? I'm going to do the hocus pocus on your ankle. Okay, great. See you next time. That's exactly what a session looks like. And we don't want to do that or have that kind of image portrayed about the profession. And we just can't stand by that kind of treatment model either.
Yep. And that's my thing with you guys. It's all about quality of work, not quantity.
Yes.
And it's not physical therapists' fault. It's not their fault. It's the work setting they're put into. The actual clinics themselves. And just like you said, they're just so packed with volume.
Bottom line driven.
I know we get into insurance and it's all about, as a business, I get it. You're trying to make as much money as you can. But at the same time, I'm more so work smarter, not harder. If we could cut back on the patients, spend a lot more time on the quality of work, the quality of the session, the business will grow. It's going to take a little longer in there, but you're going to get a better credibility. Your reputation's going to improve. You'll get more referrals. So the way you guys are doing it now is exactly how I started this studio. And again, it took me a little longer to grow it because it takes time to do that. When we were talking about quality of work, it's going to be a lot slower, but then the retention improves,
much higher.
The referrals,
the value's high, everything.
You wake up one day and you're just like, oh my God, we're there. We're where I wanted to be 3 years ago. It's one of those things that it's just like everything you do at Next Level Physio is exactly what I do from a training standpoint. Except we're training, but it's more rehab versus the everyday exercise or prescription.
And that's why I love having community partners like Fitness Together and like Sean, just because we're so aligned in what we do every day and how we see business, and also how we can take care of our clients, whether they be patients or whether they be fitness clients. So, it's been amazing, a journey already. So I can only imagine what's going to happen a year from now. So I'm very excited about that. But looking at the bigger scope of what's going on in the world, Sean, being that we live in such a successful country like the US, which is, I'm very thankful and blessed, we do have this obesity epidemic.
Yes.
And it's crazy. Can you talk about how this has been affecting you, or what your thought pattern is on this?
It took me years to just understand why we have this epidemic. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is how we're going to fix it. It's going to take a lot more effort than that. But you can see over the course of time, and even from the Surgeon General's prescription of exercise, first of all, there's not enough education out there to let people know exactly what they should do. I know a lot of trainers are like this too, where they'll work with a client and they say, all right, you want to lose weight? Just eat better. Go get vegetables and cook them and eat them. And they give you a sheet of paper. Same thing in a PT
Yes.
center. You give them a sheet of paper. And so they get that piece of paper and they maybe do it for 1 or 2 days. And then it goes under, a desk or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
So going back to the obesity epidemic, it's the Surgeon General, back in the 90s, they were very precise and specific about the recommendation. They were telling you, you need to be exercising, cardio 4 days a week, strength training 3 days a week, or 2 to 3 days a week. And what happened is people thought that's the expectation, meaning if I don't do a minimum of that, there's no point in training.
Exactly. So it's all or none.
Yes.
And forget about it then if I can't do that.
Yeah. And so what happened is the obesity epidemic started getting worse.
Yeah.
And so in the mid-90s, they changed the prescription to say we should be exercising on most days of the week.
Yeah.
Make it a little more subjective so that people can kind of understand, hey, if I'm exercising, most of days a week, it's technically 4 days a week. They didn't tell you what you should do.
Yeah.
Just said move your body 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And that became the prescription for the time being. Now they're at a point where they get a little more specific and say 150 minutes of moderate intensity, 75 minutes of vigorous intensity, but it's still not specific enough for the individual person. These are general guidelines that most people don't fit into a general kind of category. I mean, that brings my point of like BMI and things like that.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
We're trying to fit individual people into a generic algorithm, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, this is a tragedy, and it's funny because I think that there's a lot of well-intentioned people out there, and because they don't have the accountability, number one, because they think it's an all or none kind of thing, the way that they actually view training and exercise is totally off. Off. Yep. And as a result, they're either starting things, and we know this every January 1st.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have seen over the years. Tell me what you've seen. Usually in the past, maybe say 15, 20 years ago, I would see, people last from like January 1 to like March.
Yes.
Now I'm seeing it like maybe end of January. Have you seen the same thing as well?
Yeah, we live in it. I swear society is getting more to the point where we need this instant gratification. I mean, I was talking about Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Amazon Prime is like the epitome of how our society lives, where it's like we went from getting things in a week to now 2-day shipping. And it's like, even great. What's after that? Now we want it same day. And then you can get things within hours. It's like, but we keep wanting more faster. And so when you think about it from an exercise setting, that's what people expect. They expect if I start January 1, by the end of January, I should see some physiological change in my body. If I see that change, I will keep going.
Exactly.
But we all know it takes about 6 weeks to see some physiological change. At least.
Yep.
And so what's happening is people are getting 4 weeks in and then going, well, this didn't do a single thing for me. I'm just going to give up.
Exactly.
But if they had the education, the accountability behind that, where it's like, look, Jerry, you got to stick to this for 6 weeks. Do not expect anything for 6 weeks. Have that upfront contract. Are you okay with that? Are you gonna understand that we're gonna go 5.5 weeks and you might not see anything?
Yeah.
Does that work for you? If they say yes, they can do this.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people will say, yeah, we're going to go about 6 weeks. You'll see a crazy change. You're good to go. And then you go about your way. But they don't really ask them that question. Are you okay going 4 weeks of busting your butt or change your routine and still seeing nothing?
Exactly.
If you can do that, we can get to that 6 week phase where you start to see like, your clothes feel just a little bit
it's always
loose.
clothes.
You're not going to see too much change on the scale, but things feel different.
Absolutely, I feel like that's like, and the reason why I always try to encourage people to see a trainer or a coach, especially if they're just starting out, and that could be fitness, it could be like fitness training, it could be yoga, it could be Pilates, anything where it requires some sort of skill to do something, a movement skill. It really makes a difference when you have somebody guiding you along because it's so easy to drop off.
Yes.
And here's the other thing. And again, with that well-intentioned person, it's so easy to get hurt doing something you've never done before. And that's going to really demoralize you and bring you down. And it's going to set this other sort of downward spiral that you don't want to go into. So if you're out there listening to this, I'm hoping that even just as we're listening to the podcast, that you will choose the right coach for you. Sean is an amazing coach. All of his trainers are awesome. We've met all of them. They're great. So this is where, getting an expert to help you guide in your journey is going to bring you to your next level in a safer and more efficient way. Sean, what do you think about this? Like the different misconceptions about training the body?
Oh gosh, we all think training the body means training the body.
Yes.
That's the biggest misconception. We're training the brain, which will translate to training the body.
Yeah.
That goes into every single thing we're doing. Number one, change in behavior.
Yeah.
We all know we need to strength train. We need to do cardio.
Yeah.
We need to improve our nutrition to improve anything from a goals perspective in there. But what does that really mean? When we're talking about exercise training, it just doesn't mean show up and go through the motion, because that's where injuries happen. And you need a physical therapist. So it's like a 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah.
From a cardio perspective, it doesn't mean put a heart rate monitor on and 80% of your max heart rate, you should be holding that at 40 minutes.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that. Nutrition should be 1,200 to 1,500 calories, or breaking down your macronutrients into 40-40-20. Some people get that, and some people that works for some people, but most people, it's a lot more basic than that. Get the mentality to understand that when I exercise, just come in 3 times a week and learn. Don't go through the motions that really encompass or really encode everything that I'm telling you.
Yeah.
When you're doing your cardio, it's all about just checking off the days on the calendar. Make sure you're doing it 3 days a week. Just do something.
Yeah.
And then nutrition, whatever the nutritional counseling involves there. But
Yeah.
it's all about, you have to train the brain in order for the body to cooperate.
Absolutely.
Don't just train the body.
Yeah. It goes back to the mindset you were talking before. Yeah. Do you think that there's ways to help people start developing those habits so that they don't drop off in that way?
Yeah. I mean, accountability is the biggest thing.
It is.
Going back to what I was saying, specific goals. It's short-term specific goals. If we can adopt short-term specific goals for anything that we're doing in there, the long-term goals will, pan out or work for themselves. But the short-term goals is session to session. Every single day, you can start with something where it's like just 20 minutes of exercise.
Yeah.
Exercise can be anything. It can be a walk around your neighborhood. It can be going to the gym. It can be anything. 15, 20 minutes. Not even every day. We'll say 4 times a week if you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
If you can start with that, then you work up to 5 times a week. Once you get to 5 times a week, you start improving on the actual exercise balance. Instead of 15 minutes, we're going to 20, 25. And then when you get to that point where you can't do any more, that's your kind of homeostasis level.
Yeah.
Right there. That's the level where it's like, look, what I'm doing right now, if it's not enough, if I need more, I need to do more.
You can adjust.
Less, I do less. So it's all about pushing your brain to understand, like, if you can't do any more than what you're doing, that's it.
Exactly.
You're going to have to accept that, this is the way it is.
Right. And don't beat yourself up about it. That's the other thing.
You just have to accept it, that some people are just more blessed than others.
Yeah.
Some people have time. I mean, these celebrities that look, they got nothing but
and
time.
The resources.
Yeah, they got the resources, the money, the time. And so we look at these magazines or social medias of all these influencers out there that look great. They get paid to exercise. You know what I mean? They should look good.
Yeah.
But these influencers out there that are just, giving advice where it's just like, follow my routine.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, they aren't you. They're not. They need their own routine. And that's kind of what we do at Fitness Together, where it's more so we create custom packages for every single person. So when you come in and meet with me, there is no generic template that I say, hey, do this, this, and this, you're good to go. There's a lot of questioning and figure out, again, why you're here. Why do you really want this? I know you want to lose the weight, but why? I never wear a 2-piece on the beach anymore. Next year, I'd love to just wear a 2-piece. Or my daughter's getting married next year, and I'm so uncomfortable. I hate taking pictures, and she wants to take pictures with me, and I feel like I just have no self-confidence.
Yeah.
So another big thing is people get divorced.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our clients here have come to us, and they're just like, look, I went through a pretty bad marriage for the last 5 years. I let my body fall apart. I have no confidence. And so that might be a self-confidence thing there. But figure out why you're here.
Yeah.
Then we'll coach them on what they need to be doing. And if they're willing to accept that, they'll be good to go.
Yeah. You ever have clients who have sort of an unhealthy view of exercise where they overdo things?
Oh, gosh. I don't hear, but I know athletes, including myself, that's the problem right there. Ignorance is not bliss. I know what my problem is. Specifically, going back to the ankle injury. When I started getting tendonitis in the ankle from just years of so many sprains playing basketball. And then about a year and a half ago, I met with an orthopedic because the pain was just getting to the point where it was hurting too much. So he essentially told me everything I needed to know.
Yes.
Rest.
Yes.
Take some time off, rehab. And so what I was doing is everything right. I was icing after workouts. I was doing my rehab work, strengthening those deep proprioceptive muscles in there. But I wasn't doing the main part, which is slow down. Stop playing basketball 6 times a week. The rehab work I was doing was enough to basically delay the inevitable. Yeah. But, straw that broke the camel's back right there.
Exactly,
A year and a half later, the peroneal longus ruptures, and I'm just like, what? I've been doing everything right. When you look back on it, you weren't. You were still, abusing the body. The rehab was just more so putting a Band-Aid over the injury until that Band-Aid just couldn't stay.
Exactly. We had, I love the story. We had a runner who was training for Boston, and she had put a lot of work into getting this training. And to even qualify for Boston is a big feat in itself, and you already know. Mm-hmm. And so, we had her on this path, and she was on this path, I should say, hurt her hamstring. And the hardest struggle was that she had come so far. It was like, we'll call her Janie. Mm-hmm. Hey, Janie, listen, you've put the hard work in. Trust the rehab process. Trust that the stuff we're going to give to you is going to help you to make up for the difference and bridge that gap for when you're ready to return, because you still have quite a bit of time before Boston hits. Mm-hmm. The awesome thing was so she never lifted a weight in her life. And I know how much runners and cross training, how it's so important. Yeah. Never lifted a weight, really. Didn't do heavy lifting, which we know is really beneficial for runners. Mm-hmm. We put that into her program as she was recovering, and we did our other kinds of treatment approaches to get the hamstring to come down. Finally, it was ready to, race day was here. She PRs by 15 minutes.
Good
15 minutes. Not a minute, not 30 seconds, 15 minutes.
That's incredible.
But this is like the whole thing where it's like, if you put a lot of work into things, and as an exercise enthusiast or fanatic, it's okay to take some time off because your body will still retain some of that. And as you recover, you're going to be even more, on top of your game because your body has actually healed. You've given it some rest to actually absorb that training. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the deloading is so important. And for her, although she was fearful of what that would do, it actually ended up helping her to have the best race of her life for a marathon.
I mean, athletes are kind of the exact opposite of the average
teenager out
there. So we all know the saying, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. But we never talk about the opposite formula there, where it's like 2 steps back, take a week off, let your body 3 steps forward.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
I
so
love
that's huge in athletes too. And for myself too, that's the part of my brain where I'm very analytical in the way I think. And so I try to take subjectivity and turn it into and make it as objective as possible, because we live in a world of black and white world where we want things as specific as possible because that's what makes sense. That's what makes the most sense to us. So if you think about it that way from an athlete standpoint, 2 steps back, you're going to think about it. We all think if we take a week off, we lost 10 years of life.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how much you know, how smart you are. In
the
our
feeling
brain,
of it.
We feel like we've lost everything. But if you can trust the process, going back to what you said, you trust your therapist, you trust your trainer, they know what they're doing, take their word on it, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward.
I love that. As we're going to close, Sean, is there any piece of advice you give to somebody who's struggling with their weight, struggling with training, getting on track? What would you recommend they do? One piece of advice.
You got to swallow the pill and just ask for help. I know it's tough. I mean, I don't know how to sugarcoat it in a way where it's, I know it can be very intimidating walking into this. I call my studio is a personal training studio. It's not a gym.
Yeah.
Reaching out or asking for help. I know for anybody in this world, if we need help, it's hard to ask for help, but you have to understand the bigger goal here. We're talking about being deconditioned, overweight, inactive. We're risking cardiovascular disease, which is one of the top 2 killers in this world. We're talking about risking the potential of decreasing our quality of life in the latter end of our life.
Yeah.
So you just have to swallow that pill and reach out, swallow your pride. But that's it. The only issue is finding a credible, trainer, therapist, things like that. That happens with trial and error.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest with you. But if you can find the right people for you, so from a therapy standpoint, next level physio, from a training standpoint, fitness Together-Cary, if you can find the right people and just trust the process, that's all it takes there. And I know that it's a lot more complicated than that, but I want to keep it as layman as possible. If you know you need help, why aren't you reaching out?
Absolutely.
And you have to answer that yourself. We can't answer that for you. You have to figure out, why am I not doing it? I'm just so ashamed, or I got uncomfortable being comfortable.
Yeah.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You
Yes.
know? And once you get to that point, it's nobody ever looks back and says, I'm so mad I did this. Everyone always looks back and says, why didn't I do this
sooner?
10, 15
Absolutely.
years ago? You know, every single client here says that. Every single one. God, I wish I would have started this 15 years ago. And it's like, you can't live in the past, you know?
Exactly.
What you're doing right now, some people don't start for another 10 years. So look at it that way.
Yeah.
So.
That inertia to get started can be really overwhelming sometimes. Yeah. It's almost like you're making it even harder than it actually is to just pick up a phone, send an email.
From an athlete standpoint too, myself included, when I go to do a workout, this injury has it's been really tough mentally, because I go do my workouts and I do your recommended PT exercises, which, you know, I know they're tough, but it's nothing compared to how I used to train. So I will spend a good hour 15 doing this rehab work. And it's like going into that, I'm like, Sean, you're just going to sit on the ground and do your ankle rotations and things like that, or the bands around the ankle. Yeah. It's hard, but at the end of the day, if you trust the process and trust everything your trainer or your therapist is saying, it works.
Absolutely.
And so I look back at it and it's a piece of cake.
Yeah. And and it's funny working with athletes. It's like, listen, we're working on the finer movements that we know you can like run like crazy, and you can probably, I know you can dunk. Yeah. But it's the finer movements that really kind of build that platform for better movement, so that you won't have to run into an ankle issue in the future either. So stages, right? Yeah. Sean, thank you so much for being on our podcast. I hope for our listeners out there that you found this very helpful. I know I learned even more about Sean, his methodology, and Fitness Together in this. Sean, what's the best way that our listeners can reach out to you, especially if they're looking for a change in their life in the Cary, Morrisville area?
Yeah, so you can either give us a call at 919-481-9277, or you can check out our website, fitnesstogether.com/Cary, Cary.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Sean. And again, for our listeners, thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. We hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to check out our sister channels on YouTube, Next Level Physio, and our triathlon channel, which just launched today, Next Level Coaches Roundtable. Thank you so much and have a great day.